Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to a pretty breezy day out here on the range. As you might be able to hear in the background, the trees are whipping today. So I apologize for any wind noise. I'm going to try to work around it. But I've got a very interesting little thing I wanted to try out today. It's been a long time since I've had this little setup out, and I don't think I've ever actually sat down and tested it like this to see what it could do. So the question out here today is, how accurate is a little Crickett 22? This is mine. I believe it's from about 2006, 2007, something like that. And it definitely has a lot of shots through it. So as you can probably kind of tell already, this is not going to be a super precision accuracy test type of deal. I don't have a scope on this. It's just the very, very rudimentary peep sight type setup these had back then. So definitely not precision at all, but definitely good enough. Plus, for what it might actually affect anything, we do have a pretty stiff wind out here today, so we'll see if that plays into it. But as for the rounds I decided to bring out here today, it is a very, very common thing for kids to shoot out of those and stuff. It's just these Remington Golden Bullets here. I don't know if y'all be able to see here, but these are a 36 grain hollow point round, and the box says they want to go 1280 at the muzzle, and it even says 1010 at 100 yards. Now I don't think we're going to see that out of that tiny little short barrel, but we'll see. But either way, this is definitely a youth, just kids going out and plinking around type of setup, and I really want to know how accurate it is. So let's head over here and test it. But first, I have the chronograph, so let's run 5 rounds through it real quick and see what kind of velocity we're actually getting out of this little setup. Alright, so for chronograph numbers, the box was claiming 1280, and we did not quite see that, I don't believe. But let's run through our numbers and see what it actually did give us real quick. So for a high, it gave us 1241. For a low, it gave us 1133, and that gave us an average of 1174. So that's definitely not too bad considering how short that barrel is. I think it's a 16 or 16 and a half inch barrel on that. So we're only about 100 feet per second, or a little touch over it, under what the box was claiming. So that's definitely not too bad. All right, so now that we got our speed, how about our accuracy? Let's start with shooting a 5-shot group at 10 yards, just like a little kid would try and do, to hit some soda cans or something like that, and see what kind of 10-yard accuracy we might be able to get. I think at 10 yards, it should be just fine, but let's start there and see what it gives us. Alright, so at 10 yards, we're punching almost one big hole in the paper, which is pretty much exactly what I expected to see. But let's measure it real quick with my calipers and just see, for numbers' sake, what it gave us. So yeah, that 10-yard group gave us a 0.56 inch group. Definitely nothing wrong with that at all. And for very rudimentary, not so great peep sights that gun has, that's plenty good enough. But let's step it out to about 25 and kind of see what it does there. Because maybe you take your kids out squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting and seeing what it does at that distance. Alright, so there's our 25-yard group. We definitely started to open up a little bit, and with those very, very cheap plastic black peep sights and stuff, it's starting to get a little bit tricky to see the exact center orange dot on this target. So it could be a little bit better if I was to put a scope on that gun, but hey, this is just real world results and what I was able to get out of it. So let's measure this one real quick and see what we got for a 25-yard group. So at 25, it's a 1.05 inch group there. So pretty much just call it an inch. That'll definitely get the job done on a rabbit or a squirrel or anything like that. And it probably could be a little bit better, like I said a second ago, if I put a scope on it or anything like that. But definitely not too bad so far, and definitely good enough for a youth or anything like that to play around with. But let's step it out to 50 and see what it does there. I think it's definitely capable at 50 of being accurate, but I think we're going to start to hit the limit of what we can actually kind of see with those sights. But let's take it out to 50 and just see what it does for us. All right, so here's our 50-yard group. Not quite as bad as what I thought it might be, just considering my eyesight on those peep sights. So definitely not terrible, but let's actually measure it and just see what it gave us here. All right, so at 50, it gave us a 1.92 inch group there. So definitely not terrible at all. That'll absolutely do the job for a rabbit or probably even a squirrel, and definitely plinking around on the range too for sure. So now, after seeing that, I wasn't necessarily planning on doing this, but let's throw this target out at 100 yards and see what I can do with it then. I don't think it's going to be amazing because I probably really won't even be able to see the target, but who really knows? Let's just throw it out there at 100 and see what I might be able to get out of it. Alright, so here's our 100-yard group, and it's better than what I was expecting. I did take 6 shots, but this first shot down here in the very bottom of the paper, that was the first shot I took, and I saw it was low, so I aimed a little bit higher and shot this group, and one of my shots was this one over here, which was probably just me, most likely, but that group up there is definitely not a bad group at all. So let's measure the whole group and that upper section. That way we can kind of see both numbers just for the sake of it here. But let's measure it and see what it gave us. Okay, so the overall size of the group, I measured the 6.15, but that's as big as my calipers will go, and it's just a little bit larger than that. So probably a 6.3 inch group or so from that very top hole all the way to that very bottom hole. So still not as bad as what I might have expected, considering I can barely even see this target at 100 yards through those not so amazing sights. But let's measure this top portion of the group up here just to see kind of what it might a little bit more realistically be if I was to put a scope or something like that on it, because I think that is a little bit more realistic of an expectation. Okay, so believe it or not, that's a 2.4 inch group. That upper section of the group up there. Definitely not bad at all. A lot better than what I was expecting. Like I said a second ago, considering I can't even hardly see this target down there. So I'm definitely pretty impressed with the little thing. For being as cheap as they are, and as tiny as they are, and as rudimentary as they are, they can still be pretty accurate little things, it seems. So I'm definitely pretty happy with that. There's no question there. That's a lot better than what I was expecting at 100 yards for sure. I don't have any problems with that. Alright y'all, so what do you think? That was definitely pretty surprising. At the closer ranges, that's about what I expected to see. But for longer ranges, on some not so great sights, on a target that I can barely see all the way out there, I can't complain much with that. And like I said earlier, if I was to get a scope and put it on there, which some did actually come with scopes, I bet we'd be able to get a little bit better than that even. But for open peep sights like that, on that cheap of a rifle, I can't really complain at all about that. That will absolutely do the job. So it seems like for a little kid's rifle, those things are definitely pretty accurate little shooters for what they are, definitely. But what do you guys think about it? And I know a lot of you have probably had one of these or still do have one. And if that's the case, what has been your experience with them as far as accuracy goes and things like that? I would love to know. But as today is concerned, I'm definitely pleased with that kind of accuracy. And with that being said, I'm going to jump back to doing all the normal testing for you guys. And we've got some hunting stuff coming real soon as well, so stick around for that. And for those of you who don't know, we also have an Instagram now for the channel where you can see sneak peeks and updates and things like that over there. So as usual, I'll leave the link in the description. If you're interested, you can head on over there and check it out. So on that note, I'm going to jump back to it, and I'll see y'all in the next one.